And last week chanted Rupamataji. And somebody said, oh, you're giving class next week, and I wasn't. And chanted Rupamataji. And he said, yes. Alright, there we go. I had nothing in mind. But then afterwards I thought, okay, maybe it's a good time to do football conference. Technology these days, any of this could be fake. So I thought, yeah, anyway, it's something I've wanted to do for a long time, not because I thought, oh yeah, everyone needs this, it's more just because I wanted to do it. Which is, we do a lot of Japa workshops for new people, or people that are just getting into Krishna consciousness, or as a way to get people to kind of we say, oh, we're doing a meditation workshop, but very rarely do we actually do Japa workshops for devotees. We just kind of get to a certain point when it's like, okay, you get to a certain point as a devotee and it's like you take care of your own japa. And I thought, well, we still need them. And sometimes it's just little reminders for myself, because I was thinking, well, yeah, we all fall into lulls where, we go through good japa periods, and then there's times when it's like we're struggling. This is just like, okay, well, we're doing our japa and, well, that's what we're doing. And there's other times when it's something that we fit into the rest of the day, and there's times when it's like the most important thing in that day. That's the thing we're looking forward to, and everything else fits around it. And that can all happen, especially one japa period sometimes, or one round, or the weeks and months. But I was thinking it is the most important thing. We gave the 10 offences and the monks. And that's all about how to chant japa. So I thought it might be nice for us to do a little japa workshop together. Now, as I've thought about it, we'll probably be chanting at least 3 rounds. So that's what I said, is I haven't got the japa beads to hand. Because we will be. There you go. Better to go and get them now than disturb everyone deeply absorbed.
Where's your japa? Where's your japa?
Mine? What am I going to
I didn't bring mine because I didn't know that we were going to chant.
Oh, I thought you did. I saw you pick him up.
No, I was going, but I said I'm not going to chant. I'm just class and go home. So.
Oh dear.
I didn't do it.
Tell me before what you were going to do.
So to begin with, anyway, we're not going to go straight into chant japa. Those that are already read it. I've got 6 rounds left here. I thought I had to sit in class, but no, I get to finish one round. No, I'm going to talk a little bit. So I thought I'd read from this book. It's a very nice little book by His Holiness Satchidananda Maharaj, who's he's written now 4 books on the chanting of Hare Krishna. There's one very thick book, The Nectar of the Holy Name. There's this book, Rama Rama. There's another one called Broken Names or something like that. And I think it's then a guidary book as well, but then I think there's another book which I haven't got, which is kind of between this size and the other one. Which I think is called On Chanting Hare Krishna, which isn't done yet. But I could be wrong. I've done a bit create books that he hasn't done that everyone now goes out looking for on the internet and asking him questions in 5 years' time because they saw something on YouTube. Where's his book, man? Anyway, it's a very nice book, and I thought I'd read from that for a little bit, just because he writes the experience that we've all had very, very nicely. And it's kind of emotional. Anyway, I'll start off by a quote, which is the title of the chapter. We're not reading the whole chapter, called Approaching the Ocean of the Holy Name. And this is from a diary which he wrote on a Japa retreat in 1999. Maharishi does public retreats, but he also does personal retreats where he'll just go somewhere very, very quiet with a small group of people and just get absorbed in Japa, which a huge amount of rounds, just to, in his words in previous books, he says to reconnect with the Holy Name. And I don't believe for 1 minute he's disconnected, but it's that he gets that period where he's like, okay, I just want to really go deeper and deeper and deeper into my Japa. And he does these in different places, like as much as he goes to India and does it, he'll do it in Croatia, or Europe, Germany, wherever he thinks, okay, there I can have the solitude that I need to become absorbed. And this is from one of his diaries. It says, there comes a time for each of us when everything seems superfluous except the longing of our awakening soul to find its own true path. So this little section is entitled Waking Up from the Dream. When the soul slowly awakens from the dream of material life, it can understand that it has long served ungrateful masters, the mind and the body. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, at that time the awakened soul says in effect to the mind and body, I am not identical with you. I do not want what you require. I have long believed that I was identical with both of you and that we shared the same interests. But now I find that I am categorically different from you. I am made wholly from the principle of self-consciousness, while both of you are made of dead matter. I refuse to be a slave anymore. That's from Vaishnavism, real and apparent. It's quite a powerful statement, which we've all probably experienced in maybe not concise and poetic language and strong language as this, but at some point we realized, okay, I'm more than just a body, I'm something else. We talk about it all the time. I'm spirit, soul. But that strong identification with that actual reality may be something different. We may know it theoretically, philosophically, we may go on about it and we tell people, I don't know the body, but then we may do so many things which are forgetful of this fact. But, and that's natural, we're going for a marathon of Ricky. There'll be times when we're really thinking, yes, I'm a spirit soul and this body has no control over me anymore. And there's times when we don't even realise it's just the body's dictating and that's that. You'll have mood swings. So that's only the mind and the body just like deciding, okay, this is going to happen to me now. And we have to deal with it, we have to tolerate it. But at least for our japa, we should be thinking in this mood, reminding ourselves, okay, now I'm going to do something which actually is free from the bodily concept of life. Let's at least, before we chant, while we chant, after we chant, remind ourselves this is actually my spiritual activity, this is the activity of the soul. This has got nothing to do with my material self, and at least while we're chanting our japa, like Bhaktisiddhanta says here, I am made wholly of the principle of self-consciousness. In other words, this is the real. And the body, which it may, and the mind, nothing but dead matter. It doesn't feel like dead matter. Maybe we can see it with the body, but the mind feels very, very real, and not very dead, and certainly not matter. But it is, it's something. So Bhaktisiddhanta makes this very clear distinction to tell the body and the mind, okay, no, I'm not you, and I'm not going to be your slave. anymore. And strong language. You all have, books, films, whatever, about slavery and slaves becoming free. Now here we are back to saying this very strong statement. Very poetically put, but I'm saying no, I refuse to be a slave. So this should be at least our mood before we chant japa, is to keep this in mind, like, okay, yes, I'm not going to be a slave to the body and the mind and the ego anymore. I'm just going to focus on my japa now, and whatever the body and the mind come up with, I'm going to push to one side and be strong. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's very strong in this as well. He kind of says, if you very strongly tell the mind to go away, to shut up, to get lost. just no. And we've all probably experienced this when we have to chant japa in high pressure situations, like the book marathons coming soon. It's just around the corner, September, September. It's a good time to start preparing for the December marathon now. I was even asking Gopal yesterday if we started using Christmas lines yet. This is a good time to start at least thinking, okay, how do I prepare to get myself consciously, the mind ready for 4 weeks of intense sankirtan. And it is intense. But we find when we chant japa then, because the intensity is there, the intensity of the japa goes up. We become more focused, and when the mind tries to come in during the marathon, we're like, no, I'm not listening to you because this is a marathon, and if I listen to you, I'll have a bad day. And then there may be extra incentives. Most of my spiritual master, like wanting the scores every evening. So in the morning when you've got to text your spiritual master the score and he's expecting a certain score. It wasn't okay, whatever score is great, he's expecting a certain level of score, then it kind of improves your japa a little bit. Because you think, I can't space out because it's not just tired enough like, I had a bad day today, it's like, on the phone and you've got to be setting the score. But we should always be like that. It shouldn't need that extra impetus. It's nice to have the extra impetus. But it should be that we can focus like that. And then if we experience it during the marathon or other intense periods, think, okay, let's try and at least chant our japa like that every day. And even if we fail some days, at least we're trying to, at the start, think, okay, this is what I want to do. And this book's very nice. We'll talk later as well about some verses that we can recite, just not hours and hours of verses, just kind of like 30 seconds before japa to get us in the right mood. And some verses will appeal more than others. That's a very individual thing. If you have a particular verse that you're not just learning slokas, but a verse that relates to the chanting, that inspires the chanting, then focus on it before japa. And then it creates the right mood for japa, rather than, on the bad days, it just being like, okay, I have to look at my counting beads and boom, there we go, one at a time, we're ticking off. No, we're becoming more absorbed in our inner mood of devotion, our inner longing for service to Lord and Krishna. Like Maharaj writes, there's nothing that matters except the longing for our awakening soul to find its path. So it's longing. We've all probably longed for something at some point. When we're really hungry on a fast day, we might have longed for class to end and prasadam to be served. We have some concept of what it means to long for something. We have different relationships. There's the intensity of missing somebody and wanting them to be back again. My grandfather never got over the death of his wife. It's this constant longing every day, constant missing for 3 years. So when you see that, you think, okay, we can be, that's material, but it gives us some concept, actually, this is what it is to long. And then we can see, okay, well, do I feel like that towards the Holy Name? Is this mood of longing and dependence on the Holy Name developing? Do we even want it to develop? So we can examine our chanting and say, okay, yes, well, if it's not, then let's try and, what do we have to do to bring that into our life? Marsh continues here. Oh, how much courage and support the soul requires at its moment of awakening. As a person who has just begun to regain consciousness after a deep sleep is still drowsy and in danger of again being overwhelmed by bad dreams, so the awakening soul is in danger of again closing its eyes and lapsing back into unconsciousness. Beginners in chanting are often divided souls with tendencies towards both material and spiritual life. I'm sure you all feel that. I feel that. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that when we initially gain a drop of faith and begin to think, let me become a Vaishnava and serve the Lord, the concepts of I and mine are still there, although they're a little bit more spiritualized. We often suffer from a divided mind, torn between the good things we now truly want, or at least we should want, and the things we actually do want. The new will which will begin to develop is not yet strong enough to overcome the other will, strengthened as it is by long indulgence. Those old habits have grown into fierce masters that seem to come alive with all their brutal force once we wish to escape their unrelenting rule. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur movingly describes the precarious position of such an experience. Alas, how unfortunate I am, having fallen into this insurmountable ocean of material existence. I am being thrown here and there by violent waves of my wicked desires. I cry miserably at my helpless condition. But I do not see any hope for being saved. What should I do? How will I be delivered? I do not see any solution to my dilemma. Alas, alas, I am most unfortunate. Take me to you, my Lord. Take me up to the shade of the cool dust of your lotus feet. Oh, have mercy on this wretched self. That's from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhakti Vivek. So we can see from that there's deep emotions there. One is the acceptance of our unfortunate condition because we have material desires. We're in that situation where our material self is so strong and that the Krishna conscious identity that's grown seems to be constantly battling with our material identity for supremacy. And we may go through that all day, every day. It doesn't go away. It's just a matter of, okay, dealing with it, how to deal with it, which we've got some experience of. And back to Vinod Thakur, how many of us though actually feel in this mood? You see this depth of wanting to be Krishna conscious, but he's lamenting so strongly with his material desires. And this is from a longer song, and a lot of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs are like this. His first set of songs, that they're very much lamenting the fact that, you know, I'm here in the material world, I have material desires, how I'm unfortunate. How many of us think like this? Generally, we probably the material desires come in and we lament that we have to try and push them out and try and concentrate because indulging in the material desires seems easier. Seems easier to focus on, seems easier to just drift into while we're chanting. That's on bad days. On good days, you're there and you're like, So, on the bad days, these prayers from the acharyas, in fact, they're good to know because then we can think, okay, I can't concentrate, my mind's going everywhere, how am I going to deal with this? Well, we have the mood to deal with it. See ourselves as unfortunate. See ourselves, realise the unfortunate state that we're in, that for some mad reason we came to the material world and decided to stay. And actually think like that. We can pray like that, we chant bad japa, and so it can transform our bad japa into good japa. Because we're recognising, oh look at my unfortunate state, I can't even control my mind and focus on the names, I'm just overwhelmed by all these material desires. because it accepts our humble position, that actually material energy is more powerful than us. Our state of existence being that, yeah, we've done this for millions of lifetimes, and now we're in this state where we can't do anything about it ourselves. And then if we're praying like that, recognizing our situation and feeling sad about it, whilst we're chanting, it leads to this next point of like, well, okay, what do I do? And like back to saying, I can't see any answer to this. Okay, Krishna, and we'll read later the Gopal Guru Goswami's translation of the holy name. Krishna, take me to the shade of your lotus tree, the cooling dust of your lotus tree. So he realizes, yes, his mind's giving him so much trouble, this material situation is giving him so much trouble, he can't do anything about it, he's suffering. What's the answer? Well, please just take it to your feet. So that's what I'm saying, it can transform bad japa and recognize it instead of like, oh, I have to chant good japa. No, it's the process by which the bad japa transforms into good. Hearing this prayer, back from the course, giving us, like actually lament your situation, acknowledge it, and lament it, and then realize actually, yes, we have no other shelter apart from Krishna. So then during our japa, we can then go to that first translation of the holy name by Gopal Guru Goswami, which is pleading to Radharani, please take me to the lotus tree. And then that becomes good. So then all of a sudden, instead of our mind being heading everywhere, we're thinking, we've led to this place of, okay, hey, please take me to your feet and give me my show. Please engage me also. And I get to those now. I won't talk, there's so much to talk about. I'm recognizing it, but this was some little workshop that just there for me. So, before we get into chanting, jump forward 4 chapters. Unless anyone's got any questions on it so far. On those points. Acknowledging how I should say it exists. No? Okay. So that leads us to the next bit, which is humility is the key. And Maharaj writes here, as devotees become more and more purified in heart, tears of genuine humility will wash the remaining impurities from their eyes. As they look at their previous ego state, where they solidly identified with the universe as self-created illusions, they will naturally feel drawn to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's glorious instructions, which relieve one from the dictatorship of Rankara. In other words, when we take Shatabhur Chaitanya Shikshastika, which is the guideline to our chanting Hare Krishna, that naturally relieves the longings of the mind and the soul. These instructions advise us how to approach constant and affectionate chanting. And we should all know this verse. Tranada Pisanichana, Tarora Pisanishana, Manina Manidana, Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Give a whole seminar just on this verse. We all know it. Prabhupada said, I'll quote him back from the call, but he said that we should wear this verse like a garland around our neck that's constantly there. That's not just some nice poetic thing. And a necklace with another piece of written on it and wear it there. It's that we remind ourselves every morning, yes, the humility to realise we're in a bad situation. The tolerance to realise, okay, yes, my mind's going to do this, I just have to tolerate it. Not give it time, not give it energy. Yes, my body's going to say this, it's going to say so many things to us. Tolerate it. Tolerate the demands of the mind. What's the first verse of the instruction? Tolerate, tolerate, tolerate. So here's Lord Chaitanya reiterating it, tolerating it. And in your humble position, realize actually, yes, I don't have anything, really. Our material quality is very small. And it's nice when we read the Bhagavatam, when we read about the opulence of the heavenly planets, and then we realize the opulences that we think we have materially, actually, well, not that much. We don't have, some of us may think, oh, we can sing, it's nice, and we get praised for it. But then when you read about how the Gandharvas and the heavenly planets, just by their singing voice, can captivate yogis that have spent thousands of years of austerity, realizing that they're not the body and they can control everything. And yet just by their singing voice, they can break that 1,000 years of austerity and induce, lusty desires in their mind immediately, that they give up their 1,000 years austerity, which nothing else has been able to disturb them from, and then immediately, create children. Well, our voices can't do that. it's a very powerful thing. So then we realize actually that materially speaking in this world, we don't have much. So we realize that. We get rid of this false sense of prestige, and then we're able to see the glories in others because we're not looking for glory ourselves. We're in that position where actually the iron mind's gone a little bit, the false ego's gone a little bit, so then we can think, okay, look at this is wonderful, look at this devotee, look at this person, it's wonderful. Without any sense of like, no, the only way I can engage with them is pointing out the faults. And then that makes me feel a little bit, not in the sense of like just seeing the good. It's a sign of the topmost devotee is that we can't distinguish between devotees and conditioned souls because he just sees everything as just Krishna. So it's the stage we want to get to. And in that way, it says, in that way we can chant constantly. So it's good to remember this. It's one of the verses we should remember every day. There used to be a practice in some temples that they recite this after Tulsi before the 10 offences. But it is a good thing, even if we don't do that, which can become a mechanical thing, just individually, just before our japa, remember this. Or the night before our japa, before we go to bed, remember this. So in the Shivam Swami, he has a whole list of prayers that he chants before he takes rest, and he has a whole list of prayers that he chants as soon as he gets up. So he'll do them all before he starts the sadhana. He's already getting his focus in the right frame of mind. Do it. So that's what we should be doing. We do have it. We have Mangalarti prayers, which are very nice, and they get our minds in the right space for chanting japa if we remember the English translations of the Sanskrit that we're singing. Tendency is we learn the Sanskrit and we sing it, and it's like, okay, now it's japa time, without actually thinking of, well, what are those prayers preparing us for? Preparing us for the mood of how we're going to chant. We sing, was it 8 prayers in the morning? And they're all focused on the mood of the spiritual master, acceptance of the mood of the Guru, how we serve the Guru, how we glorify the Guru. And the Tulsi prayer, getting us in this mood of a manjari, getting us focused on this mood of like, yes, we're servants of Rama and Krishna. And then our japa comes. What do we do? We're pleading to Rama and Krishna, pleasing Krishna and service. So the whole morning program up to the point of japa is getting us into this point that Lord Chaitanya has given, this highest realm of bhakti of the residents of Vrindavan. So that when we're chanting our japa, we're praying in this mood. Yes, I want to be a resident of Vrindavan. I want to serve my Guru. From him all this mercy can flow. And we're pleading, please let me be the hand by which we can serve Rama and Krishna. Now, if we just went through the mechanics of it, that's probably not going to cut our mind everything all we have to do, what's a service for this, what else haven't I done, what have I done, what's for breakfast, who's on breakfast, do they know that they're on breakfast, who's on class, should I go to class, what's an excuse to skip class, you know, what else am I going to be doing through the day? Where am I going to fit in this? And you know, we may even start worrying about what rounds we're not going to get chanted before we're going to finish Japa, or we're not going to chant rounds. So many things, rather than Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, please engage me in the service. I was lucky enough to be with my spiritual master on a trip to India once. We went to Goa for I think 10 days, and then we went to my home in Cardiff, and I left in Cardiff. But it was very nice in Goa. There was myself, Taraknath, Maharaj, Shambhi Hare, and it was very, very sweet. And I remember one morning thinking, spiritual master, he's walking around the small swimming pool that we had, and he's just walking up and down, chanting his japa. And I thought, you know, his deities were outside, there's a sit there, chanting his deity, Maharaj is over there. He's a really good disciple. And then I was chanting away, then all of a sudden I hear his head praying. And I look up, and Maharaj is the other side of the pool, and he said, are you concentrating on Radha and Krishna, or are you just concentrating on whatever your mind tells you? And I'm like, okay. And I thought, well, I don't want to say, oh yeah, Radha and Krishna, I'm doing that. But at the same time, I don't want to turn around and say, oh, well, whatever my mind tells me. So I thought, oh, I got the right answer, and I'll be like, oh, a bit of both. You know, I'm struggling, I'm working on it. And I said, oh, a bit of both. And he said, you can't do both. You can do one or the other. You can't do both. And I was like, right with you. And then he carried on walking up and down. So it's a good point. You can't do both. So our struggle is that we're trying to get to the point where we're focusing on Radha and Krishna. And the effort to do that we may be engaged in. And that's where sometimes we think, oh yeah, we're doing both. But at least we're putting in that effort. We have to put in that effort to think, okay, this is the purpose of my japa, this is what I'm doing. And recognizing everything that leads up to that. And it takes effort. It is not something we can just do mechanically. And we have to remind ourselves of that effort. And the techniques that are there for it. These nice verses, just to remind ourselves. And they are very poetic. Maharaj writes here with this explanation. It says, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur composed a beautiful song about this third Shikshastika, in which he encourages us to do everything in our power to develop the 4 qualities necessary to practice Nam Bhajan. His words offer us practical guidelines on how to become qualified for constant chanting. So I'm going to read these out in English, and then we'll skip. So after this, we're going to chant around with the things I've talked about and these prayers in mind, and thinking in that mood, trying to, whichever one attracts, thinking, okay, yeah, I'm not this body. I'm an awakened soul, and now this is the most important thing. That we want to chant in this frame of mind, recognizing our wretched state, lamenting it, feeling sad for it. How often do we do that? And we think, oh yeah, I'm materially conditioned, but how often do we actually feel sad? How, we maybe feel depressed for so many things. I feel depressed every morning that I'm awake. But I lament the fact, it's like, should be the other way around, really. Lamenting when I go to bed, like, oh no, I have to sleep, curse this body. But no. It's just, and in the morning, oh no, I'm awake. But no, our prayers should be, our lamentation should be like the gopis in Vrindavan, where they're cursing Lord Brahma for inventing eyelids, because it's restricting for a brief flicker. I mean, how often we don't even recognize how much our eyelids flicker. But they're lamenting that because that's a split nanosecond that we don't even acknowledge probably most of the time, how often we blink. But they're cursing Lord Brahma for this. So, you did this, And for that split second, we don't get to see Krishna. We don't get to see Vrindavan. And the person will come on, it's your fault. Why did you do it? You stupid man. That's the mood we want to get to, that we're lamenting completely every aspect of our material thing because it stops us seeing Krishna. So, yeah, chant in whatever shape or form it takes, that we're actually sorry for our material conditioning. We can pray to the holy name, apologize to the holy name. It's not different to Krishna. For our material attachments, for our constant, our still apparent desire to engage in material energy, to be a material person. Chant like that. Anyway, I've got these nice verses. Come back to Notical. If you desire to engage in chanting Krishna's names and glories, then do everything you can to gain the qualifications necessary to do so. You should give up all false pride and always consider yourself to be insignificant, without possessions and lower and more humble than a blade of grass. Practice the virtue of tolerance by emulating the trees. Give up all vindictiveness and look after other creatures. Do not give distress to any other living being in order to maintain your body. Forget your own selfish concerns by serving others. Even if you possess all good qualities, do not try to profit from them by seeking prestige. Keep your heart simple. Know that all living beings carry Krishna in their hearts, so you should offer them respect under all circumstances. Cultivate the four qualities of humility, tolerance and compassion, respect for others and indifference to worldly honours, and chant the holy name. Bhaktivinoda cries out with the following plea at the Lord's lotus feet: when, oh when, will you make me qualified to chant your holy name? So that's how I want us to chant. Just one out. With that mood, recognizing our unfortunate situation, and like back when I was praying here, thinking, not crying out loudly, disturbing everybody. See some shout from the back, beating their head against the wall. He said, well, back to him said he's beating his head against the wall repeatedly, shouting, when will that day be mine? When will that day be mine? No. Inwardly, cry out like this. When or when will you make me qualified to chant? So it's a plea to Krishna. Lamenting our situation, lamenting we have no attraction, and actually asking Krishna, please help me become attracted to him. When or when or when? In fact, the Lord is saying, will you make me qualified? So he's not even asking if it to be a voluntary thing. He's saying, Krishna, make me qualified.
Ask for the explanation of why that we can't do both, like Shri Rama said. Because that's how it seems to be, one mantra.
Well, it depends what you mean by focusing on Krishna. If you meditate on Krishna, it's the same as like you can't serve two masters. So there's that analogy, isn't it? When you come to devotional service, you kind of have a foot on a boat and you have a foot on land, and the boat's going out. And I mean, you're all right for a little while. You can have the foot in both camps if you like. But then the boat's going out and it becomes a little bit more difficult to have your foot on both. So eventually you have to make a choice. Am I getting on the boat or am I getting on land? Or you just fall in the water and you drown. So it's the same thing. The boat is Krishna consciousness. So we want to get on the boat and we want to go there. So when we're chanting on the stage, that most of us may be in. It's like that. Yeah, it seems like we're doing both. We're pleading with Krishna, and at the same time we're battling our mind. And it's that pleading to Krishna which is actually battling the mind. So it feels like you're doing both. But to actually meditate on Krishna, you can't really have the battling with the mind as well. So it's, and Prabhupada also gives the explanation, by trying it's the same. So it's that, well, if you're just letting the mind take over and whatever's coming in, you're just kind of going with it while you're chanting your rounds, because it's like, oh, I ain't got the energy today, or yeah, it's just too tough today, and it's just this round, that's me finished, I guess, and there's other things. I've done 5 rounds and one more round. It doesn't help, but by trying to focus on Krishna, it's the same as doing it. So even though we may be, if we're actually battling with the mind and recognizing it and pushing it away, that's the same as meditating on Krishna. What you can't do is indulge the mind and meditate on Krishna. So you can't be just like, oh, well, now I'm meditating on Krishna. Oh, now I let the mind take over for a few rounds. And oh, now I'm meditating on Krishna. And we've all probably had the experience as well. I know it takes me. It takes a few rounds to warm up. It's like the first round you're kind of chanting, and it's like, chanting, but then by the time you might get to like your second or third round, you can actually get into that prayerful mood of, then you're begging Krishna, and then you're lamenting for all your fraudulent behaviour, or that you're not Vaishnava, all these material desires are still there. And then you get to that point where you're begging Lord Chaitanya, you're begging Krishna, you're begging service in order to still accept you. So it may not be straight off the bat, like, okay, yeah, first round, here I am, boom. The first couple of rounds, they may take effort to just shut the mind up, to get into the fact that you want to chant. The first few, those are always the toughest for me. It's like the ones when you have to really kind of put the endeavour in to not just let your mind flow over you and distract. Which is easy in the temple. I was just thinking before this morning, and my house has a very nice view now, and I have a nice little chair, and I look out the window, and I like to sit in that chair and looking out the window, and there's boats going by, but then sometimes I think, actually, it's not for good japa. I'd sit outside when it was warmer in the morning, and I'd just sit outside chanting, and the birds say, oh, it's a nice atmosphere, but you can't really get into intense japa. One, because people walking by with their dogs, so I can't be there, like, they just won't do it. But there's all the distractions, and so it's enjoyable and it keeps the mind occupied, but it's not great for japa. That's why you see you get these pits in Vrindavan houses, old Vrindavan houses. They have these like japa caves. We saw one, they've got one at Christmas Sarovar, and we all went down into this year. And they're for chanting japa. They're bhajan caves. So you go in and there's nothing but darkness, there's no sound, and it's completely disorienting. I remember chanting one once, I couldn't go with it. You don't. The only sense you can engage is your sense of hearing when you're chanting, and the fact that you can feel the floor, because you can't see anything, you can't hear anything, and it freaked me out. It's just like you don't know where you are. Okay, is the wall here or is it 10 foot? But if you want to chant some really intense japa, that's what they're there for. So it's like that. You put the effort in, and that's the same. But the only saying you can't do both, and it's just letting your mind, what's that phrase, chew the mind's bananas, and then on the Krishna. So we may not be meditating solely on Krishna in the groves of Vrindavan, but it's that we're putting in that effort to concentrate on holiness. It's the same. So that's what it means that we can't do both.
feels also like when you're chanting and you have the joyful mood, you know, that you also, I felt the need to like choose between, you know, trying to hear the mantra, trying to hear the prayer, and so on. And I don't know how to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it takes time to warm up to that. So the main thing is you hear the mantra. That's the predominant factor. The main thing is that, yes, we hear the mantra. And then, as we're chanting, sometimes if the mind's coming in, like when we're trying to battle the mind, we have those internal conversations, isn't it? When we're trying to chant, we're telling the mind to shut up. Or sometimes we're not, just let the mind do whatever, and we're still chanting, but the mind's just away, occupying. It's like, and the music isn't, now it's not, because it's actually on the computer, but back in the old days, we used to have like 8 tracks. So we have all these different tracks where you could say, okay, I'm recording this one on this tape, and this one's going on this tape. And they'd all be going at the same time. So that then they could be edited and put together properly, cleaned up. Or if one track didn't quite happen, you can just record that track again, and the rest was great. So it's like that. So the mind seems like that sometimes. It's got 8, 16, 32, whatever, how many tracks going. And we're battling with it. So sometimes the battle with that, once you've warmed up into your japa, we have these nice prayers that instead of us becoming overwhelmed and thinking, you know, using whatever language we want to in our head to tell the mind to go away, we have these prayers to take shelter of and move it. So once you're warmed up and fighting the mind, let's use the prayers and just let the mind do whatever. But the predominant factor is you should be listening to what they make. So then it's nice to get in the mood, we can see these prayers before we chant. And then after each round, if we're there, then we can say, you know, okay, this is how I want to chant. And then, as like I said, as we get warmed up into our japa, naturally that prayer formula comes. And we can be chanting, and as we're chanting, one of the other tracks in our head is there saying, please engagement in service, instead of it saying, oh, I know it's for breakfast. So it's just a way those different tracks in the mind, and then we're focusing on the prayer to Krishna, which is please engagement in service. That's what Prabhupada says, so that's how we're praying when we're chanting japa. Please Krishna, please Krishna. Whilst concentrating. But if our mind's completely quiet and there's no other things going on there, and we can just hear clearly the holy name, then great. Just concentrate on that. And pray before, pray afterwards. But we've all done it. I mean, probably my most successful marathon, Krishna consciously. And the japa was just this constant like focus. I didn't want it to deviate one little bit from this prayer that I could be the hand by which my spiritual master got to distribute books. And I remember texting him saying, look, this is how I'm praying this, because he wanted to write books, but he couldn't. And so I was saying, okay, let me be the hand by which you distribute books. And that's like every morning, that was my focus. During the japa, it was like, if anything else came in, I was like, no, this is what I want. And as far as Krishna consciousness goes, that's probably my best experience in Krishna consciousness ever. It was 5 weeks. Better than any trip to Vrindavan, better than invading the Radhakant, better than circumambulating Govardhan or going to Mayapur. It was better than all of those. More enlightened. And I put it down to, we went to Hungary, New Dam in October for Holy Name Day, and it became very clear then, he pretty much ordered me to that marathon to do good. It wasn't like a normal kind of do good. And it felt like, okay, that's the preparation, that whole weekend was preparing. And from that point onwards, all the lectures I listened to, everything was preparing to be able to chant in that way, so that when you're out in the street, there's no There's no mental problems. You just get on the street and like, oh, okay. Without all the tough out but it all comes from Japa. And that particular time, as I said, probably the best. It was kind of prepared for 2 months previous. So if we can be like that every day, thinking, okay, I'm preparing to chant my Japa. How do I prepare to chant my Japa? Then chant my Japa. And then the rest of the day is like, okay, how am I preparing for chanting my Japa? In the activities of the mind.
We spoke about in the beginning of the book that we should get to the stage of trying to see the conditions of on the same platform. I guess that's kind of easier to say when you're situated in a situation where you're continuously surrounded by devotees and you only have small interactions with conditioned souls. Or if you do the voice on Sankirtan, you know, it's kind of their job in inverted commas to do Sankirtan, so it's kind of their service. How does someone how can someone use the Japa and then also progress to a stage where they've got to integrate self who works in the material world, conditioned souls continuously around? How do we get to a stage where we also have that feeling? Because it's not like like a guy robbed from us yesterday, but stock, £800 worth of stock, he just come in and took a load of jackets. Like, I don't understand how I can get to the level where you can see someone at the same platform as a devotee, someone who I've intimate connection.
Yeah, it's not necessarily seen as a devotee. Like, there's still that discrimination of like, okay, this is a conditioned soul, and this is a soul which is becoming free of their condition. So it's being able to discriminate how you interact with them differently, but still there's that humility that we realise, well, no matter how conditioned the soul is, it's still a soul, it's an eternal servant of Krishna. So it's the tolerating the external conditioning, and realising maybe internally not to judge them and accepting their conditioning. Generally when we feel angry or hatred, there's, sometimes there's spiritual anger, but generally it's because on one level or another, it's because they've made our life harder, or there's some envy, or there's something there. So it's generally based around the I and mine concept on different levels. So one thing as we progress when we're chanting, if we're developing this mood, like this this humility, tolerance, being more humble, restoring the street, is realizing, well, maybe not this life, but previous lives we've done so many erroneous things. Probably this life too. The fact that we take material birth means that we're thieves. We're trying to enjoy Krishna's energy as acting like Krishna. So we've all done that. To some degree or another, still doing it. So we're still engaging in it. It may not be as gross. So it's a matter of having that knowledge, that understanding, and it takes a lot of effort, that compassion, real genuine compassion. It's difficult. And that comes from chanting in that mood and preaching. When you preach, it really comes, because you have to have it. Because otherwise, why are you preaching? If you can't feel compassion for conditioned souls, how are you going to preach? You can't. So, that's why we have that story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's famous, Japa and Nada. And when they were terrible, they weren't just like, little reprobates, or they get drunk on a Saturday and they might, do a little bit of damage. They were murderers, rapists, thieves, really the worst of the worst. And what converted them in the end was looking to Nanda's humility and tolerance and compassion. So, and that's what they're like, cool, anyway. Because he had that unconditional compassion. Comes with time. Generally, we get somebody pulls in front of you in the car and and that's just because they pull in front of you or they take your parking space. That's what's out there waiting for a parking space, and some other devotee came, just drove in, some Indian body congregation member drove in and just drove straight to the parking space, and well, I've been waiting for 5 minutes. So we have to practice that tolerance. But it comes from our japa. If we're praying, if we're doing our japa in that humble state of mind, realizing that, really actually putting in, not just during our japa, but like I was saying, preparing for it, constantly realizing, that our unfortunate situation being in the material world as a soul. So that requires knowledge and requires understanding of what a soul is and our original position. And that understanding, that's why David Maharaj highlights so much reading to his disciples and his kind of nephews. That it's, you have to do this because then you have the knowledge by which you can actually see our actual position. And when we can do that, and we're chanting like that, then that natural, all those attributes, like, they naturally come. Because we've put in place the preparation for it to come. It's like at work, isn't it? If you've got delivery coming, the delivery can't just turn up and it find its way to its shelf. You have all the logistics of it, all the preparation for it, the computer systems, the ordering, the stock levels, and then when the delivery comes, you know what's what and where it's going to go. So all the preparation work is done so that it can go out on the shelves and be stolen. So it's the same. If we do all the preparation that's there throughout the day, especially in the evening before we go to bed, then when we get up to chant, that preparation work's done for how we want to chant. And when we chant, it makes it a lot easier because the prep work's done. So that's what I was saying, it's this tolerance, humility, thinking, understanding, having knowledge of our situation, that's the prep work. But then when we are chanting, we generally are pleading to Krishna. Please don't leave me. Please help me that I realise that please just keep me at your feet no matter what. Which goes against materials, sensibilities that we put in the prep work so we can put ourselves in this position of understanding how our wretched situation and pleading for just unconditional mercy. And realising we haven't got grace. But that's the state we get into. We're just crying for Krishna to give a show. It's like the residents of Vrindavan, isn't it? You have Rathi Atra and they're pulling Krishna and they're like, no, you don't want to leave. And when he does leave Vrindavan, once it's never leaves Vrindavan, but when he's going, all the residents of Vrindavan, they can't cope. They're just waiting and pleading for Krishna, come back, come back, come back. And they see no hope. They stop eating, they stop decorating themselves, the crops start dying. The garden goes from green to grey because they're seeing no point without Krishna. What's the point? But the only thing that keeps them alive is the thought that Krishna is there, that Krishna's coming back. This is the state we get to. The show becomes frozen, stunned above. She's just there, frozen. Krishna's, when he says dust trails, he's gone out. And she becomes frozen, thinking, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? When's he coming back? Where's Krishna? And she just stands there all day. Where's Krishna? Where's Krishna? The only thing that wakes her from that slumber valve sometimes is the thought of Krishna's coming back, I have to have these things ready. So that's what we're like with our service. It's like, yes, Krishna's coming, Krishna's here. Okay, I have to get this ready. Anyway, next one. So once we're in that state, there's that point that we're getting to that point in our japa where we're kind of hearing the holy name, realizing every morning, putting in the prep work for our japa, and we're in this mood of realizing Krishna is our only. And this gets to your question as well. Realizing that Krishna is our only shelter. Realizing that our material state is not one that we want to be in. And lamenting it, genuinely lamenting it. And like Bhaktivinoda Thakur says later on in a different prayer, he says if you can't lament the material condition, then you lament that you can't lament the material condition. And if you can't do that, then you lament that you can't lament the material condition. And so on, if you can't do that. But somewhere there you're lamenting that, like, okay. But yeah, I'm super attached to material life. I'm really sorry. I am. I'm really sorry that I don't regret that. But I'm really sorry that I don't regret that. I'm really attached to material life. Please help me realise that I should be sorry. So at least somewhere there we're going to push with it. I am really sorry. And I really wish I couldn't be. So when we're in that point, then there's this nice Satchidananda Maharaj here. He says there's the three most powerful rules for chanting. And the first one, he says, it's interesting how the mind works, because this is completely material, how my mind works. I read the three most powerful rules, and it goes A. Oh, why don't you just put another one? There's three most powerful rules. What's A? But that's my mind. A prime example of like the mind just seeing the fault instead of the glory. The wonderful things that are written, no, not seeing those. Seeing that. A. So A. Chant with a feeling of connection and eagerness. And what Maharaj writes here. While chanting, we should maintain the mood expressed in this wonderful prayer. May my mind always be eager to see you, just as an unfledged bird cannot live without their mother's presence, as hungry calves anxiously wait to drink their mother's milk, and as a wife remains absorbed in the thoughts of her husband. When he's away from home. This text expresses a devotee's great eagerness to experience a relationship with Krishna and ultimately to serve him as a wife serves her husband. No, me it's back to No, seriously. The text expresses devotee's great eagerness to experience a relationship with Krishna and ultimately to serve him as a wife serves her husband. It also refers to chanting with gratitude and appreciating the mercy you may have already received. As expressed in the first two analogies, and it certainly expresses the key to advancing in Krishna consciousness, eagerness. So here, one of the three most powerful rules is this sense of gratitude, the sense of service, and a sense of appreciation for the mercy that we've received. So we're pleading, we're acknowledging our wretched situation, and the next point is in Krishna we do feel some relief from the material pangs. So we express gratitude to the holy name for the situation that we've been given. The peacefulness that we have in our mind when we relate it to how disturbed we were before we become devotees. it's a good practice to do. Sometimes we get caught up in our situation now, and we think, oh yeah, I'm suffering this, I'm suffering that, I'm suffering that. Whereas if we looked at our previous existence before we were devotees, we realise actually what we think is suffering now, like a teaspoon not put in the right place, or the gumptious hanging up like where they shouldn't be, or so-and-so's wearing my coat, then actually they're nothing compared to the suffering that we had before we were devoted. The material situation that we're in, the deep ignorance that we're engaged in. So we may think, well, actually, I wasn't suffering, I was having a good time. But then we look at what that good time was. It was like involving intoxication, promiscuity, gambling, meat eating, all these bad qualities which are damaging to the soul. So we weren't having a good time. We were just in deep, deep, deep ignorance. We didn't really know what was going on, and we thought it was a good time because we were going deeper into ignorance, and the mind was just not even there. But you see, anyone that goes into that stage that can't maintain it, eventually becomes suffering. And even other material things like fame. Most famous people suffer. They're the ones that are always going to the drug rehab. They're the ones that are, they're famous, and then what do? They go on national TV to talk about their depression and how they're suffering. You got this, you got this, you got this, you got this, because they've got no gratitude. They can't be grateful for their situation. There's an interesting thing that happened related to gratitude. As a sportsman, plays football. It's a little bit diverted, but it's a nice material example. And he won the man of the match award a couple of weeks ago because he played a brilliant game and he scored a couple of goals. He's Muslim. And afterwards, in his interview, they were glorifying him and he was saying, the normal stuff footballers say is a good team effort, was this. But then straight after the football game, he went to his local mosque and he cleaned, he didn't tell anyone, he didn't take the press along with him, it wasn't a big thing. And he does this every week after the football. But he said he felt compelled to do it even more after that game. He went to the local mosque and he cleaned all the toilets. Because he wanted to remember that actually all the things people were praising him for came from God. That all the good things that happened over this man of the match, all the plaudits, everything that he had was coming from God, and he wanted to remember that. And he said that it cleans the toilets because it puts him in a humble position. He doesn't tell anyone, he just goes in and he remembers, yes, actually I'm nothing without God. Without God's grace, I'm nothing. And that's why he cleans the toilets, because I'm not going to those places. And so he's putting himself in a very low position, doing a very, very menial service to remember God's grace. And I thought it was very nice. It's that he, very, very rich, very famous, and yet he doesn't want to forget that all of that is actually God's grace. So he doesn't just do a little sign as a lot of footballers do, the point of the sky with God, glory, or say a little prayer at the end. He's like for hours cleaning toilets. And he does it every week. Doesn't make a big sign and bounce out of it, just turns up, cleans the toilets, and goes. So, and I was thinking, if we can chant like that we're always thinking, showing this gratitude in whatever ways we do, in whatever ways we can, but at least when we're chanting, that at least we have the holy name. We may not have anything else, but at least we have the holy name, and that's enough. And having that sense of gratitude, verbalizing it, whether it's in a prayer or in a way of glorifying it to others, but at least verbalizing in one way or another that the gratitude we feel towards the holy name. Thanking the holy name for what it's given us. Thanking Krishna for everything it's given us. And appreciating the situation that we're in. never being in what's called an ingrate. So we appreciate Krishna's mercy. In that way, we'll feel connected to the holy name, and we'll be eager for more. Because we'll be realizing, yes, I want more of this, I want more of this, because I have no other shelter than that. So please don't withdraw your mercy. And that should compel us to have eagerness, like Maharaj says. Chant with a feeling of connection and with eagerness. So that, yes, Krishna's name is not different to him, so it is him. It's not some nice meditation. We're connecting with Krishna, and that we're eager for his mercy to flow into us. And that does one of two things. Two. First one is that then we become attached to Krishna consciousness. We become attached to Krishna. And two, that with that mood of eagerness for Krishna's association and a natural diminishing of our eagerness for material association goes. So you can see just that small point, so many problems go with that challenge, so many things naturally develop. B. Contemplate the meaning of the maha mantra whilst chanting. So it says, the Hare Krishna maha mantra is Yugla mantra, a mantra where the divine couple is directly addressed. Srila Prabhupada informed the world of the root meaning of the maha mantra, a meaning that includes all other meanings. So this is directly quoted from Srila Prabhupada. It says, my dear Srimati Radharani, my dear Krishna, please engage me in the service. In the beginning of the Hare Krishna maha mantra, we first address the internal energy of Krishna, Hare. Thus we say, O Radharani, O Hare, O energy of the Lord. When we address someone in this way, he usually says, yes, what do you want? The answer is, please engage me in the service. This should be our prayer. And that's from the teachings of Lord Kapila, chapter 14, therefore to verse number 32. So this is the meaning of our chanting. And we'll get into the more in-depth ones given by Gopal Guru Goswami, which are also nice that we should meditate on. But this is our primary meditation when we're saying how to meditate when we're chanting. Well, this is how we meditate. O Radha, O Krishna, please engage in this service. Yeah. So that's how we're going to chant. Now, before we get on to how to use these meditations of Gopal Guru Goswami, what time do we have to finish? 9 o'clock? The what? Yeah. Okay, so we'll chant one round and then we'll get on to the prayers. So the next thing before we're chanting, with this wretched state of mind, acknowledging that situation. Now, it's very much intensely just with this simple prayer, contemplating the meaning of the Maha Mantra that Prabhupada gave us. It's O Radha, O Krishna, please engage me in the service. In other words, O energy of the Lord, O Lord, please engage me in the service. And like Prabhupada said, what happens when you call somebody? They say what you want. So that's the start of the first mantra, Hare, is us saying, O Radha. And the next one, Krishna, O Krishna. And they say, what do you want? And they say, please engage me in the service. And we can see there's these nice descriptions, we won't have time to really get into, about how there is some Bandhadi Day and Prayojana from our mantra, which comes in that meditative mood. Perhaps we can do that next week, maybe. About how to develop those moods of meditation from understanding the Maha Mantra and the different parts of it, and how meditating on different parts develop a deeper mood for chanting. But for now, for one round, even though you may have already done your 16 in this mood, we'll do another one. Really put in the effort of thinking, okay, yes, this is what we're doing. We're calling Radharani, we're calling Krishna, because we want to be engaged in this service. Begin next week. We go on to the third most powerful law, which we touched upon anyway a little bit, which is lamentation, sincere lamentation for our state of being. And we'll go into the understanding of the different descriptions of each part of the Maha Mantra, and how those meditations help us develop through our Krishna consciousness, and the meanings of that kind of service and the depth of the Maha Mantra, and how we develop that second Sambandha, Abhidheya, Prayojana, the different states of that, and how to talk more, how to get the most of engaging in those meditations for our japa. There's no hard and fast rules for it. It's not the way it was to do it. It's kind of what works for you. Different devotees do different things. I have some devotees sit down before they chant the japa, and they will go through a lot of prayers in English, not just in Sanskrit. And when that sets them up for the japa, or some others that at the end of every round they'll read a different prayer. I remember when I first got this book, I would read a chapter, I would chant 4 rounds, and then read a chapter, and I'd chant 4 rounds, read a chapter, chant 4 rounds, read a chapter. And like that over a period of days. Because it was good, I was putting into practice, okay. While I was chanting 4 rounds, that chapter, what was that? Another thing. And it's different when we get these nice verses we're going to go through. There's the first one. I remember memorising all of these at one point, and I've forgotten all but one. But that's because I used that one more than others. And it was, others may pick on that one and think, okay, this is what I'm going to do today, and tomorrow, okay, this is another thing. Depending on where you are. And it's not just these prayers, there's other prayers like I said from back to the Nota Core especially, they may appeal to us. So we read those before we chant, just to get us in that mood of chanting. If Guru Mangalati wasn't on that. There's this extra bit. Anyway, we'll talk more about the importance of actually doing that, and the different translations of the Maha Mantra. And chant some rounds next week, just so we get into it. Maybe we chant a batch together rather than just one. We'll go through something and chant 4. So we can get into it well. Okay. Till next week.